Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with Ari Notartomaso, who plays Cynthia on the new Paramount Plus series Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies. Aria, this is a unique opportunity to give a queer voice to someone in the 1950s, which is something we haven't seen much of. Talk about taking on this role and what it's meant to you.
Yeah, growing up, I didn't really have much role models in the media, especially in musical theater, and specifically of butch lesbians. And so to be able to go back in time and bring lesbian representation to stories of the 1950s, but also to young adults now who might not have that kind of representation, it's just been so special. I got the chance to talk to a lot of lesbians who were alive in the 1950s and to hear their experiences, and then to be able to share that, and coupled with my own experience and the writer's experience, it's just so special.
Yeah. At the beginning of the series, Cynthia's hanging out with the T-Birds, and she wants to be one of the guys. And even though they enjoy spending time with her, they're not really willing to claim her as one of their own, and they reject her proposition to actually become part of that gang. Can you talk about diving into those feelings of rejection you got into for that performance to make it so
Mm.
real, particularly for someone in high school and someone with insecurities? In high school, they already run high, but being queer brings that to a whole different level.
Yeah, I was pretty severely bullied growing up, and so feelings of rejection within peer groups is something that I have a lot of experience in. And so tapping into that, while it was very painful, it was a lot easier to access than I thought that it would be. And thankfully, because of the way that our show is set up and the care that is put into listening to young people and the characters that are teenagers in our show, it was actually a very healing experience for me as an actor to sort of go back in time and play a queer character that was not out, but exploring her queerness and her gender identity and expression, um, in a way that was sort of a safe environment with other people who were also outcasts and growing up, like the other pink ladies or were all outcasts growing up. And so to sort of band together and actually have a gang, and be able to find ways to accept each other and our differences. And also it's a musical, so there's like an element of sort of fun inside of this, inside of the 1950s oppressive context that we have for our show. So it was definitely a challenge in some ways, but it was also it was also very cathartic in others.
You're having a big viral moment right now on social media. It sort of came out of nowhere in recent weeks, but Crushing Me has become this queer anthem. It's arrived just in time for Pride Month, which is so cool. People are posting videos from Cynthia admits her crush on Lydia and is singing and dancing around her as Lydia's frozen in position. What has that been like to see this song strike a chord with so many people? And you've taken part in it yourself, I believe.
It's of course, you have to. It's so interesting because because of the pandemic, I had never really used the TikTok. And so I sort of used the time that I had as an opportunity to sort of like sing musical theater songs, and queer them in my own ways. Like I would change the pronouns of some songs, and there were a few moments where I had gone viral on the internet because of that. Um, and so I sort of was used to that happening, but it was always without the attachment of me as a person. Like it was always like, oh, that video of the singing it, belting as high as she can, or the all in video. And so then now that it's not just me bringing my queerness to a musical theater song and posting it on the internet with no context. Now it's actually a lesbian character in a canonically lesbian show with a canonically lesbian song, singing to another sapphic actor in this production that is now also like attached to to all of us in production. Like it's all of us as humans have come together and made this thing. And so while we were singing this song, because it's a duet with my friend Trisha, who plays Nancy, we loved the song because it's such a great song, but we had absolutely no expectation that it was going to have the kind of moment that it has. And to me, it really just I don't care if things go viral, but it does matter to me if people relate to the material. And, I set out for this show to be able to share my queerness and my experience as a non-binary lesbian, a butch lesbian in this show, and to know that there are people who are seeing that and receiving that and relating to that and then sharing their own selves through this song back to me. It's just like, and to each other. It's just like, it's so amazing. I love the internet
Yeah, I
for
mean,
all
it's
it's
a great
worth.
moment. That's a great song.
Yeah,
My personal favorite of yours was All In.
thank
It's
you.
just so different from everything else. It's got that jazzy feel to it, but it also stretches your vocal range. That's also a pivotal scene where she just sort of finally surrenders to her feelings for Lydia. Talk about recording that and filming that scene as well, and what that was like for you, because I love that song.
Yeah. It's also somewhat related to what I was talking about with the internet, where I had posted this song. It was a Barbara Streisand song called "He Touched Me," and I changed the pronouns to she.
Mm.
And our that's part of actually the reason that I got the role in the first place. But then Justin Tranter, our writer, saw that video and was like, "Okay, well now we have to have a jazz song, a la Barbara Streisand in our show, and use that part of my vocal range." And so hearing that song for the first time and knowing that it was like it was such a beautiful song that I got to sing, and then to go in to a recording studio with Justin and with all of these incredible artists and make this song that's going to be on our album and be on a record. And then, of course, going in and filming it, it was like, it just felt like all of the hard work that I put into, I went to musical theater school. And so all the hard work that I put into being able to sing through a song and act a song, and then also all the hard work that I put into to self-liberation and to be able to share myself as a queer person and stand inside of my honest truth, and then to meld both of those things in this one song with a friend of mine who plays Neve, who plays Lydia, and also Jennifer Morrison, who was in Once, the TV show growing up. I had like my own personal queer awakening watching her in that show, and then for her to direct that song as well was just like so full circle. She also directed the Merely Players in episode 5, so it was just very full circle, and it was just so meaningful, and I still haven't processed it.
Speaking of Justin Tranter, I spoke to him. He's the executive music producer for the show. He said you're as good as any artist he's worked with, and that's saying a lot.
Mm.
He's worked with some of the biggest names in pop music. What has it been like for you to have this breakout moment, and not only be able to showcase yourself as an actress, but also your singing?
Yeah, I mean it's incredible, as you can imagine. Justin is like one of the most incredible music artists, writers that and most prolific that I've known. Like whenever I learned that Justin was writing the show, I was like, oh, obviously, they're a huge deal. And so I pulled out my phone and looked through all my liked songs on my Spotify, and a huge number of them were written by Justin Tranter, and I hadn't even known. So then to, of course, now be able to sing Justin's songs is like, it's unreal, and to have their support as well. It's just incredible.
One of the episodes that was interesting as well for me was the one at the dance. Cynthia's in this fluffy yellow dress, completely out of her comfort zone, and she's trying to suppress her real feelings and makes a move on Shy Guy. And he rejects her, and she says, "A real man would like it." And that really
Mm.
stung him. And I found that interesting because it's someone who's clearly going through her own issues and then reflecting that back on someone else, not knowing what they're going through. What was it like to play that? What do you think was going through Cynthia's mind in that moment?
Yeah, that was a really hard scene to shoot. I was in the closet for a really long time, and I really struggled with compet is something that we use in the queer community to describe the feelings and the experience of like the world expecting that you would be straight, and then to sort of assume that that was just your existence and your reality, and not realizing that you were queer. So I dated men for a significant portion of my dating life, and I always felt that there was some part of me that wasn't completely present. And for Cynthia, this is her first experience with that, where she's sort of forcing herself to have this experience with this boy. And it's really hard. Like, it's a really hard experience for me. It was for years. I didn't realize that I was essentially traumatizing myself And Cynthia in this scenario is also is inflicting this on a friend of hers that she doesn't realize is also having the same experience. And so to film that was very difficult for both of us, and the way that both of our characters were hurting very deeply. But then, of course, for Cynthia to bring her own internalized homophobia onto this man and then sort of express, it's very oppressive, I think, that men can't experience emotions and aren't, and are sort of assumed to be, incredibly highly sexual creatures and stuff. So for her to do the same thing to him and share her own internalized homophobia to him is it was really painful, but I do think it's really important because that is, then of course they get the conversation that they have in the next episode where the two of them get to come out to each other, and not so many words maybe, but there's an understanding there.
Yeah, I love that interaction. I thought it was an important story to tell. For people who aren't familiar with your history, who are new to finding you through this series, talk about when you first got that bug for singing and acting. When did that passion start for you? What prepared you to become ready to step into this moment?
I've been acting, singing, and dancing since I was 6 years old. My parents got a divorce, and I had like a lot of time that my parents had to be doing other things, and so they were like, "Theater, do you want to do this?" And so I walked into the community theater near my house, and the person who runs the community theater is a butch lesbian. And so this is my first experience with experiencing a butch lesbian. She's like has tattoos and she has earrings and she's like very harsh and like super strong of a personality. And my dad who's also gay, was kind of scared that I'd be a little bit terrified of this woman, but I was like, I need to go back forever. And I did. I never left. I was in shows every single year since, until the pandemic, when we were sort of forced to not perform. And then I graduated from Penn State right before that. I went to school for musical theater in college at Penn State, which did very much prepare me for this. And it's sort of impossible, I think, to prepare actors in a collegiate experience completely for the real world and for working professionally, just because working on the job, I think, is the best way to learn. And thankfully, this cast is incredibly supportive, and this team is incredibly supportive. So whenever I walked onto my first ever day on set, on the series regular television musical theater, musical series that we did, I was met with a lot of kindness and a lot of open hearts, and I'm very, very grateful that I got to learn on set with people who were also learning in other ways, and who embraced me with open arms. Very, very grateful for it.
Yeah, what was that like to be with that whole cast? I mean, talk about a training ground. I don't know how many shows you're going to have to do in the future that require singing and dancing and recording. And I mean, this is a grueling schedule. So maybe it's good that you're starting that way. What was
Yeah. Being with everyone is amazing. It's a very ensemble heavy show, which is something that as a theater person, I'm like, right, that's how it works. And it turns out that's not always how it works. And to be able to have so many of my now friends working through these incredibly long hours, 16-hour days, shooting entire musical numbers in like within 24 hours, over and over again for 7 months in a country that none of us have been to. It was an experience like none other. It's so funny. I actually had a conversation with Jennifer Morrison, who told us that, sorry about that, who told us that we were like, is this crazy? Like, is this an incredibly hard, difficult experience for us to be having? Like, are we crazy that this is very hard? And she's like, you will be bored after this. There is nothing like this. So I'm feeling very good about that, knowing that in the future it's going to be, I'm sure it'll be different and difficult in different ways, but that this might be the hardest thing that I have to do in my career.
What was the most difficult dance to get down, or song, for you personally?
Ooh. There's a song on the last episode, the Pink Ladies Pledge.
Okay.
I think Pink is the name of the song. And I had COVID while they were rehearsing it. And Marissa was on set filming other things while we were rehearsing it. So Um, so my friend Chanel, who plays Hazel, sent me videos of herself like teaching me the dance because I got like a video of them rehearsing it, but it was like blurry. My phone can't take the internet sucks. And so she just like taught the whole thing to me on her little cell phone, and I'm like in my quarantine in my hotel teaching myself this dance. And so me and Marissa walked up on the first day of set, having never had a rehearsal for that song, and did the entire thing that day. We just like they just shoved us into it and hoped that we already knew it. It was very hard, but it was also very rewarding. It was such a good day.
And as a theater kid, I'm guessing you were very well acquainted with Grease growing up. I don't know how many times you saw the movie. I saw it probably 2,000 times when I was a
Of
kid.
course.
So what were your thoughts just getting into this series, like getting this gig and being like, okay, I'm going to be part of this Grease world now?
Yeah, I mean, you probably won't be surprised whenever I tell you that I was very intimidated by adding myself to the canon of Greece. It's like this beloved film and world. And so to be able to like bring ourselves in, of course, just generally existing in this world and having our characters in there, but also our characters that maybe wouldn't have been given the time on screen or the amount of time in our storylines, the amount of kindness due to our marginalized identities and experiences as people on this earth, like, to be able to both bridge the world of Greece, which is so beloved, and then also like our authenticity and our experiences as marginalized people who also existed in the 1950s, and then make that happen together in this 10 hours worth of a musical series. It's just incredible.
Did you have a favorite original Pink Lady?
I was gonna say Eugene, but Eugene is not a pink lady.
Well, Eugene could be, yeah, you
I
could
was,
be Eugene. You could make a
yeah,
T-bird.
yeah.
What did you like about
I
Eugene?
lovingly.
Why do you love
Well,
Eugene so much?
I think Eugene is very queer coded personally, so I think that Eugene is
Oh,
the first queer person in Greece. But I very lovingly call Greece too the revenge of Eugene. Because he finally gets a scene with the T-Birds where he sort of like tells them off and like puts them down a peg, and they deserve it. But I do think my favorite Pink Lady probably would be Frenchie,
okay.
and then my favorite T-Bird would be Duty.
Okay. This makes me want to go like watch this again and see Eugene through a different lens. Because I've never thought of
Yes,
that. Well, we're happy that you are now in this Pink Lady family, in this Grease family. Ari, it's been great to see you have your moment on this show. Congratulations on some great work. Best of luck to you and the entire cast and crew at the upcoming Emmys. And thanks for sitting down with Cold Derby today.
of course. Thanks so much, Denton. So great to talk to you.